Hey there, EB here on the Anything But Bland weekly update. It's a Friday, happy Friday. Looking out, the skies are gray. It's been raining all week here. Um, so we're a little wet here in the Columbia Lexington area, but I'll tell you the temperature has just been absolutely beautiful. It's been in the high 60s, low 70s, kind of chilled at night when we take the dogs out and go for a golf cart ride with the dogs, wearing a sweatshirt, a hoodie. It's always fun. I love that about the fall to be able to wear a hoodie, sweatshirt. So let's jump into this right away. A lot happened this week with tariffs and continuing to talk about Ukraine and Russia and uh, different things. We know that there's investigations going on in connection with Epstein, the 2016 election, and the Russia, as President Trump says they're subpoenaing um, different people from the Clinton administration, Bill and Hillary. They're subpoenaing for testimony Obama and Biden to talk about with Clapper and Brennan, James Clapper and John Brennan, to did they use it as a campaign hyperbole? Did Hillary Clinton use it to her advantage? We'll see where that comes out. We're also following the congressional hearings into the competency or lack thereof of former President Joe Biden and the auto pen issue. Anita Dunn, who is his longtime confidant and counselor, she testified yesterday. She did not get subpoenaed, so therefore she couldn't take the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination like others have. So we'll see where that shakes out. We also know that Letitia James is being investigated in connection with the civil judgment against Donald Trump that a court entered into for $540 million last year, a non-jury matter. Pretty disappointing when the Justice Department is really just acting as the personal attorneys for Donald Trump. That was something that we always made sure that the Justice Department was separate from the executive branch, even though they're under the auspices of the president, that they act independently and don't act as his lawyers. But clearly, Pam Bondi is seeking retribution on his behalf on a number of fronts. Russiagate, Biden, with the auto pen, and certainly with these civil judgments that were obtained against Donald Trump. So we'll watch those closely. 5 soldiers were injured this week at Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia. They were shot. Thankfully, they lived. I mean, what is going on in our world where soldiers who put their life on the line are being shot on base? I think it's a disgrace. And we really need to deal with targeting and red flagging these people that have certainly predisposition to this kind of incident or mental health issues that we need to watch out about. I read this morning that Trump announced a $50 million bounty arrest reward for Nicolás Maduro in Venezuela. Maduro, he took over in about 12 years ago. There was an election that took place a couple of years ago. He lost, but he wouldn't give up his office. There was a $15 million bounty by Donald Trump in the first administration for his arrest, leading to his arrest, and then Biden upped it to $25 million, and now Trump in his second administration has upped it to $50 million. Evidently, Maduro works with the cartels, the Sinaloa cartel, as well as the Treven gang that's in America now that Trump has talked a lot about. He is connected with 30 tons of cocaine that is his own cocaine stock that was being sold, that was confiscated. We have confiscated over $700 million of his assets, which consists of 2 airplanes, some cash, and 9 cars. Trump has talked about meeting next week with Putin and Zelensky at the same time. Putin has indicated that he wants to meet with President Trump, but has not indicated that he will agree to meet with Zelensky. Again, Putin is nothing but a wolf in sheep's clothing when it comes to these meetings. He does enough to appease the president, but he goes back and does directly the opposite. I don't think he's going to agree to any kind of retreat. I think at the best, he's going to say, "I want the four provinces in Ukraine that I've taken control over." This is a big thing for Trump. If he can resolve this war, he will and should get the Nobel Peace Prize award. But it's very elusive. It's kind of like nailing jelly to a wall. Remember, he said he was going to be able to stop this war and end it within 24 hours of becoming president. Israel this week said, and don't forget, today's the deadline, where Trump said a couple weeks ago that Russia had until today to solve and settle the Ukrainian war, or the secondary sanctions were going to go into effect. So we'll find out tonight whether these sanctions did go into effect. Israel announced through the Knesset that they're going to take over Gaza for the foreseeable future. Hopefully they are willing to hand it over to Arab countries. Arab countries said no, they don't want it. It should be handed over to the PLO. Israel said they won't do that. Gaza is a powder keg. Yes, there's incredible amounts of human suffering and starving going on, but we did see the pictures of the starving two of the prisoners from October 7th, 2023 that are still alive. They are stick thin, concentration camp thin. One was digging his own grave. It was extremely sad. Can you imagine what's going to happen when you have tired and hungry people who have been displaced time and time and again throughout the Gaza Strip over the last 2 years, because 80% of the country's blown apart, when they're going to be within steps of an Israeli soldier who has a gun? And you can imagine what's going to end up happening. We're going to have some mass confrontation that's going to take place with a lot of shooting. Israel has already accomplished its objectives. Hamas will never agree to a peace proposal because they can't fight Israel anymore. And so their only means of getting at Israel is, because they can't beat the military, is to stay in power by sacrificing and perpetuating and keeping going this starvation without reaching an agreement with Israel. So that's pretty amazing. Construction is beginning right now. It will begin in September on a $200 million, 90,000 square foot ballroom at the White House. And Trump has already moved or removed all of the Rose Garden where this ballroom is going to be. It's a little bit obtuse and unsure of how it's going to be paid. Trump says he's going to pay for it through his donors. Certainly the White House needs to constantly be updated. And if the Historical Preservation Society determines that this is in conformity with the design of the White House and keep making it more modern, then it should be done. The only problem is to really make it in connection with the specifications of the White House. You have to reinforce the walls with steel so that it's bomb-proof. So that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Trump told Chuck Schumer this week to go to hell. The Senate has been holding up a lot of his lower-level nominees and judicial nominees by demanding each person who is nominated go through the entire process with every single senator being able to speak, and it's brought the Senate to a standstill. It's really the only method, I guess, that the Democrats have in the Senate because they're outnumbered on everything. Trump announced this week with Tim Cook from Apple that Apple's going to invest another $100 billion in America over the next 10 years. This is on top of the 600 billion that they've already pledged. There's no question that Trump is bringing investment into this country that had never existed before. It's going to be interesting to see whether these companies with the tariffs going into effect, whether they're actually going to come back here, close their manufacturing facilities around the world and manufacture here in the United States. What I think Apple's willing to do is manufacture some of their semiconductor chips here in the United States, because we know that Trump announced earlier this week that there's going to be 100% tariff on every semiconductor manufactured outside the United States. We do know that during the Biden administration, Biden was instrumental in having a semiconductor manufacturing facility open up in Ohio. So that's going to be interesting. Tariffs go into effect today, this week, against 40% of the trading partners that we trade with throughout the world. The United States is keeping Mexico's hope alive because they agreed to, Trump did with Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, to postpone the final number against Mexico for 90 days, not against Canada. There seems to be a real schism developing between Mark Carney and Trump over the Canadian tariffs. And right now, I think they're at 15 to 30%. The highest tariff average of 17% across the board is the highest tariff rate the United States has had in over 100 years since the Great Depression. And we're raising this against our allies, whether it's South Korea, whether it's the European countries, whether it's Canada or Mexico. These are all our allies, which is a very dangerous thing to do. I learned that the way it's done is, and we're going to be raising billions and billions of dollars. The question is, does that mean that there's going to be a price increase, which will lessen the spending from consumers, therefore not enough money is going to be spent, therefore not enough taxes are going to go to the government. So that's going to be played out over the next couple of years. But what happens is when the goods are shipped into the country and they go to a dock, the importer, the person receiving the goods, pays the tariff. And the question is, does the exporter from the other country who's shipping the good into the United States, do they lower the price of their goods so that the importer, after they pay the tariff tax, still can make money on the sale? Or if the exporter is not going to lower the price, then the importer is going to pass that on to the consumer. So we're going to see what happens with prices and inflation over the next, and consumer spending over the next 6 months. And that's going to be the big thing that's played out. And I saw a chart. Brazil is at 50%. He's very pissed at Brazil. Trump is. They export, obviously, coffee, sugar, and bananas. And there's going to be a 50% tariff on them. And there's also sanctions that he's leveled against the Supreme Court of Brazil because they've arrested Balacera, who is a former prime minister who Trump was really close with, who acted like Trump. Syria's got 41%. Switzerland's got 39%. So now we're dealing with Rolex Swiss watches, Ebel watches, and all the chocolate. Libya, Serbia, Algeria, they're all at 30%. South Africa is at 30%. India, he is really, really mad at India because they keep importing Russian gas and oil, and they're not willing to stop. And so India, that's now at 25%. President Trump is threatening to take them to 50%. Taiwan and Vietnam are at 20%, so sneakers are going to go up 40%. Food's going to go up probably 20%. They said for every average family, it's going to be $2,800 a year increase in spending because of tariffs. Toyota's already announced that they're going to lose between $9 and $15 billion in this quarter by tariffs. So that's really interesting. Costa Rica's at 15%. Cameroon's at 15%. And, these are smaller countries, and it will have an effect on them. Israel's at 15%. A lot of the Middle Eastern countries are at 15%. Iceland's at 15%. New Zealand, Nigeria, Norway, 15%, Turkey, Uganda. So it'll be really interesting to see how this all plays out and whether President Trump is right that this is going to get rid of the trade imbalance that exists, the surplus that exists in favor of these other countries. The big story also this week is the gerrymandering that's going on in Texas. They want to eliminate 5 Democratic seats, and they can do it because the Texas legislature is Republican. So they're going to redraw these districts. The only problem is they're redrawing them 5 years into the previous census that was taken. And usually the census is every 10 years, and you wait to do it after you get a new census report. Now, New York has done this before on the interim in between census reports. So it's, Democrats, they also have a little bit of pox on their house because they've done this before. But it is clear gerrymandering came about by Elbridge Gerry, who was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, is the namesake for this. The governor of Massachusetts in 1812 coined the phrase gerrymandering because they drew a district that looked like a salamander. Therefore, you get gerrymandering, salamander, in Massachusetts. So the United States Supreme Court permitted this to happen with a 5-4 vote about 5 or 6 years ago, where they declared that federal judges couldn't review extreme partisan gerrymandering to determine if constitutional rights are violated. I think it's a horrible decision. Now the Democrats in Florida and Illinois and New York and New Jersey and all these other states that are bright blue are going to eliminate Republican seats. And we're just going to get back and forth, and that's going to be a problem. The Texas Democrats have left the state of Texas so that the Republicans can't establish a quorum to push through the elimination of the 5 seats of Democrats that Trump wants. And now Senator Cornyn from Texas, as well as Governor Greg Abbott, have asked the FBI to hunt down these Democratic leaders and the senators and House members in Texas who are all around the country, Texas and New York, and being protected, to arrest them. U.S. job growth last Friday stalled at 73,000 jobs added, and there was a modification of some of the job numbers in May and June. It's done all the time. Well, Trump went ape crap over that, and he fired the Bureau of Labor Statistics individual who it's really a nonpartisan group of economists. And that's what sets us apart from like Argentina, because like 10 years ago, Argentina started fudging all their numbers to try to show that they had this vibrant economy, and they didn't. The United States' numbers have always been able to be counted on. Local and state governments rely on these labor statistics when they set policy. So do corporations when doing future planning. And so Trump is now going to put somebody in the Bureau of Labor Statistics that obviously is going to agree with him. And I'm sure next month he's going to show a job growth of, 1 million workers. The question is, who's going to believe him? Even if it's true, they're going to think that it's politically motivated. Stephen Moore was in the White House yesterday with some charts trying to dispute the labor statistics findings and the modifications that have been done. And when asked, they ask, can you have any empirical proof that these numbers are wrong? They talk about an outlier. Scott Bessent, who's the Department of Treasury Secretary, said yesterday, it'd be like if you're flying a plane from Florida to New York and you land in Newark, that's one thing. But these statistics are you're flying from Florida to New York and you're landing in Denver. So we shall see. Daniel Patrick Moynihan said, who is a former senator of the state of New York, you're entitled in Washington to your own opinions, but not your own set of facts. So you can't make up facts. I think that it was said best by one of Trump's aides before, Kellyanne Conway, in 2016 that Donald Trump has his own alternative set of facts. All that is lying, but clearly he does have his set of facts, and he believes that the job numbers are wrong, and we'll see where that comes out. I think that's going to be a big problem. Um, I saw somebody that says if the alternative set of facts makes me look good, they're right. If the facts are bad, then they're wrong, and somebody's out to get me. That's the way it is. Like if you don't like the intelligence report that contradicts your view, you go after the analysts. If you don't like the cost estimates for your tax plan, you invent your own. If you don't like a predecessor's climate policies, scrub the government websites of any underlying data. Don't like a museum exhibit that cites your impeachment, like the Smithsonian exhibit. It actually took out Trump's being impeached twice and left in Nixon almost being impeached, Clinton being impeached, as well as Zachary Taylor, the president. Um, if the firing of this person is politically motivated, then no one is going to believe the labor statistics that come out of this administration um, over the next 3 years. The FAA, I heard this morning, is going to hire 89 air traffic controllers. This is on top of all the ones that they just let off for Doge. Um, Smithsonian, I told you, took out the references to Trump on impeachment. Micah Parsons came out. He's the outside linebacker, rush linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. He's averaged 12 sacks or more during his first 4 years in the league. He's an incredible talent, not great against the run, but just incredible at getting at the quarterback. He went out publicly and demanded a trade from the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones maintains that he cut a deal with Micah Parsons alone when they met this spring. Micah Parsons says, sure, we talked, but I told him that, any deal has to be done by my agent, not by me. That's why I have an agent. Jerry Jones has been known to try to go around to agents and get to his players directly. We know it didn't work out well for him last year with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. He could have signed them for many, many millions more, but he waited till the last second. He's not going to trade Micah Parsons. Micah may have to sit out this year, but he'll franchise tag him for the next 2 years, but he's not going to do that. Gazelle Maxwell has been transferred after she talked with Todd Blanche, the Assistant Attorney General, for 2 days in a row 2 weeks ago. She's been transferred to a lower security prison magically in Texas. It violates the Bureau of Prison rules because those accused of sex crimes cannot be in a minimum security facility. Certainly not someplace that's called Club Fed, but we'll see what was cut, what deal was cut. A member of the Federal Reserve Board announced Friday that she's resigning several months before her term. Trump put in place until next January the economic advisor who's responsible for his tariff policy, along with Peter Navarro. This guy's going to be in there till December, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's the one who is going to become the new head of the Fed when Powell's term is done next May of 2026. President J.D. Vance made it known that he's obsessed with and particularly focused on UFOs. He announced that on a recent podcast. So I think that's going to be interesting. There was supposedly going to be a meeting with J.D. Vance, Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, and a couple other people at the vice president's residence at the Naval Observatory to talk about the Epstein case. That meeting did not go forward when a lot of the victims said that they're not being consulted or included in these discussions. Trump is threatening to take over Washington, D.C. after a member of the Doge team had his car almost carjacked and he was assaulted. Fortunately, it didn't go forward. It was right around the Capitol. And so he's threatening to take over the city. But right now, he's put a lot more officers, federal officers, on bikes and foot in the high traffic areas for tourists. And I think that's a good thing. Jack Smith, the former prosecutor who was prosecuting the January 6th case in Washington, D.C., as well as the documents case um, in Florida. He's now being investigated by the Office of Special Counsel, and they're saying that no one is above the law. So, again, this is Donald Trump going after his enemies. Kennedy canceled $500 million worth of the mRNA vaccines. It's just another anti vax situation. Look, I got my measles vaccine a week and a half ago because I was born in 1962, and they said my dosage isn't that great. Um, a Virginia city councilman was doused with gasoline and set on fire on a brutal attack. He sustained 50 to 60% burns on his body. I think it's disgusting. Um, you all saw the picture and the video of the amusement ride in Saudi Arabia where that thing that swings broke in half and the people fell to the ground. Um, there was a man arrested named Chris Soto in Oklahoma who shared child rape porn with R.J. May, our House member here in the State House, who's indicted for all the porn stuff. Nancy Mace announced that she has going to be running for governor next year when Henry McMaster term limits out of his office. Now we have Ralph Norman, who is from Rock Hill, who's a federal House member, Nancy Mace, and Alan Wilson running for the governor's race. If I have anything to do with it, I don't want Nancy Mace to be our governor. Yes, I am suing her. Yes, I'm a little biased because I represent Brian Musgrave, who she wrongfully, we allege, slandered, called him a rapist, a predator, and a sex trafficker without any proof other than he's just an owner of an apartment condominium with his best friend and Nancy Mace's ex-fiance, Patrick Bryant. We've been watching some great shows on TV. Seth Rogen in Studio on Apple TV, and Platonic, another Seth Rogen kind of rom-com, romantic comedy. Is really fun. He's got a friend that she was in Damages. She's from Australia. The Damages show with Glenn Close. We're watching Jason Momoa in Chief. It's a the story of the Hawaiian history tribes. And then Ballard, which is kind of like Bosch, a great series. And just like that, the spinoff from Sex and the City after 3 seasons, it's ending because I guess it's the backlash against woke. The Seattle Mariners, I think, won the trade deadline, getting Josh Naylor and Suarez. The Twins basically unloaded their entire pitching bullpen and closers, along with some big hitters. Lonnie Anderson died. She was 79 years old. She was a pinup lady in the 80s with WKRP Cincinnati and romantically linked to Burt Reynolds. Justin Timberlake has Lyme's disease, which is very scary. He's suffering from, chronic fatigue and bone pain. On last Sunday, Cameron Young, who's a golfer from Wake Forest University, who was the 2022 Rookie of the Year, he's had seven runner-up finishes, and he finally won on Sunday at the Wyndham Classic in North Carolina, won by like 6 strokes. He's won over $19 million of winnings on the tour in 3 years, and he's never won a tournament. Luka Doncic signed a 3-year, $165 million contract extension. This is the passing of the torch from LeBron James to Luka. Take a look on the web and you'll see Luka looks unbelievable. He's lost like 40 or 50 pounds since the end of this past season in June. He's training twice a day in Croatia. I mean, he's got ripped muscles, and that was the problem with him is he liked to eat and drink a lot of beer and smoke cigarettes. And he had a body of like a 35-year-old guy. Well, now he looks totally different. LeBron and Bronny, his son, did not come to the announcement when they did a press conference re-signing Luka. The rest of the team did. So we're going to basically see LeBron kind of pouting this year. I don't think it's going to be his last year. I think they're going to end up trading him to another team, and he wants to do what Tom Brady did when he went from New England to Tampa Bay in 2018 and win a championship. We have the first woman umpire, Jen Poel, who's going to make history this weekend and ump behind the plate the Braves and the Marlins game. She's going to be a field umpire first, I think, and then Sunday she's going to work behind the plate. Shohei Ohtani got his 1,000 hit this week, and fitting it was a home run. He is just absolutely extraordinary. Roman Anthony, who is an unbelievable player as a rookie for the Boston Red Sox, signed a contract through 2034 that's going to pay him a minimum of $134 million. It's an 8-year contract. It could be worth up to $230 million, but yet I saw today that depending on what he does, it could even go up to $500 million. Pretty smart on the Red Sox to sign him. He may have left a lot of money on the table. So we'll see, where that shakes out. I was listening today on the radio that Albert Pujols has 703 home runs. 18 years ago today, Barry Bonds broke Hank Aaron's 755 home run record and hit 756. I think he added up with like 768 or 772. The next closest home run hitter that's active is I think 39th on the list, and that's Giancarlo Stanton is at 423. Mike Trout is at 398. Paul Goldschmidt's at 370. Bryce Harper's at 352, and I think also Aaron Judge is at 350. So that's pretty interesting. I don't think anybody's going to break in our generation Bonds' record. And I do think that he should be in the Hall of Fame because the Hall of Fame is full of so many degenerates in baseball, racists, drug addicts, people who took greenies in the 70s. So I think he and Roger Clemens and everybody else needs to be in the Hall of Fame. So now let's look at some of the questions that have been asked. Someone says, I always enjoy your take on Nancy Mace running for governor and the Texas Democrats leaving. I talked about Robert F. Kennedy and the mRNA vaccine cuts of $500 million. I'm really concerned about what our epidemic illnesses are going to be over the next 10 years if all these child vaccinations and adult vaccinations aren't done. I talked about the Fort Stewart shooting where an Army sergeant opened fire. It's just a disgrace. I don't know why it's happening on these military bases where there's such brave men and women who are giving their life. It looks like that Harvard University is going to settle their differences with the Trump administration, pay a massive fine, capitulate and turn over records on students and teachers. There's just too much federal funding that these universities can't do without. The Trump administration froze $584 million against UCLA this week. They can do this. I think that, can they do it? I'm not sure. If it's allocated by Congress, this needs to be settled by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court needs to say, that can the president override a congressional funding bill that already approved it? Violent crime dropped in 2024. It fell by 4.5%. That would be on President Biden's watch, including a 15% drop in murders. I'm sure Trump's going to say these are ramped up and fake news statistics, but this is what we have. I talked about the Texas Democrats evacuating or leaving the state so that they cannot vote a quorum to enact the new law on gerrymandering. ESPN cut a deal, unbelievable, not only with the WWE for $1.6 million, but they sold 10% of their business to the National Football League. this is insane. I mean, football is just going to essentially own ESPN before it's done, before it's over with. Um, uh, that's a big issue. Hulk Hogan, his estate is going to be interesting. He cut out his daughter, Brooke. Brooke is starting to talk about how she became estranged from her father. Her father didn't go to her wedding to an ex NHL hockey player who's 39 years old. She's 37. Hulk Hogan has never met the twins that she has had. So it's really, really sad. Um, so Brooke Hogan has accused her father and medical team of giving him the wrong medication. So I'm sure there's going to be a ton of medical malpractice suits. So with that, I have nothing left to add. Nobody's on live that I want to that I can acknowledge. So everybody have a great weekend, and EB out.